I was born in Durban in May 25th, 1960, and probably spent the first 2 years there, 3 years, and then moved to the Eastern Cape, where my father was stationed as a minister in the Methodist Church. And so at the age of 10, I had the fortune of going with my parents to the US, and when my dad was actually given a scholarship to study at Harvard to do his doctorate, of which I moved there when I was 10 and really did my high school there. And at the last year of my high school, my father finished his doctorate. They came back, they left me behind. And so I stayed behind, finished my high school and did my undergrad also there. And with that, after the 10-year period that I was there, I came back to South Africa with a computer science degree. In '98, I was introduced to Mxolisi Mgojo, whom I didn't know. And he sort of invited me to be part of a team that he was putting together to acquire some coal assets. So I went into mining. I knew nothing about mining. So I became a marketing and logistic manager and had to learn mining from scratch. So part of what I've been doing is that I've been mentoring quite a number of young people in terms of helping them as they are growing in their careers. And of course, AES Sizwe, we went into it, and 5 years later, we merged AES Sizwe with Kumbanan Iron Ore, part of the business, to create Exxaro. And of course, years later, I was asked by Mr. Mgojo to also to run the coal business. And I ran that for almost 7 years. Actually, it was just about 7 years before I was appointed CEO designate in 2015, and in 2016, I took over as CEO. Right from the onset, you know, when my parents left me at the age of 15, and the first time I saw them again, I was 20. I think I was being developed in terms of really being resilient. For me, it was about perseverance, working hard. I couldn't afford to fail, because if I had to fail a subject, that means that's another semester that I have to stay there. That means more money I've got to pay. So for me, that was one of those things to say, you know, focus, dedicate yourself, and really think beyond what you think of yourself about what the possibilities of you can be. And I learned a lot about myself, but I also learned a lot during the time when we were down and out, when everything was seemingly, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. I think that was the time that I got to know God for myself, because during that period when it was difficult, when we were challenged, when you just didn't see any hope, I still put my faith in God that somehow out of this, something will come out. So, great part of who I am and my makeup is my faith that in any aspect of my life, in my journey in my life, in what I am today. So this has been a big learning for me throughout. And of course, also to do good. You know, because by and large, we don't live for ourselves. The blessings that we have are not just for ourselves, but it's how you are able to bless others. You know, I never ever thought I would be in mining. It was never part of anything in my universe. Never mind that I could end up becoming a CEO. So I would say, you know, very early on when I was in my mining career, you know, I was having a conversation with Sipho. He was my boss, he was my CEO. And we're just chatting. and I was admiring him as a CEO. And he said, "You can be a CEO one day." I said, "Come on, really?" Well, you know what, here I am today, and he really made me believe in myself. And with that, I actually started pushing myself, the boundaries of myself, and saying that anything is possible. And I started believing that. So it's been a real highlight for me to be able to have been blessed to be in this particular position today. And I think another highlight for me is the journey that I have been part to as the president of the Mineral Council for almost the past 4 years now, to have been elected by my mining colleagues, that they believed that I could be the president and play that role with another team of other office bearers in really bringing about a lot of change that we have brought about, and the role that we have played as a mining industry in the transformation that we brought about within the mining sector, in so far as the role that the mining sector has played, so working with government with that. So these are really special moments that I really cherish, that, you know, I've had the opportunity to be working with others, you know, very, very, very committed people, very committed South African and beyond, in addressing some of our country issues. I just believe that I have to be myself. You know, in everything that I do, I just have to be true to myself. I am myself. I don't pretend to be any other thing than who I am. So those tags, those labels, actually, they don't mean anything to me. For me, it's about what role can I play? Yes, the journey is never easy. The journey is sometimes very scary, and sometimes you're not sure whether the journey you are taking is going to yield the results, but dare not take the journey, because if you don't take the journey, you don't know what the possibilities are. And therefore, what I say of myself is that the best I can do, in the same way that others before me did, was to toil the soil, plant the seed. Today, I reap the rewards of the fruits of their labor, their sweat, the soil that they tilled, the vision that they had just planting this seed, knowing very well that they may not be around to actually eat of the fruit. The question is, what are we toiling the soil? What seeds are we planting? What are we nurturing, such that the next generation, we can leave them with something with which to build on going into the future? When all is said and done, what will the youth of tomorrow say about us in terms of the way that we have left the world to them? Issues of climate change, how are we responding to environmental issues? How are we responding in a way that we can leave this planet a better planet for them to inherit? Mining has become a very interesting space today. If you just look in the past, especially the Black youth, you know, I think their association with mining has been about just an exploitative environment. They've seen their grandparents come and work the mines. They've seen their parents, some of them, coming working in the mines. They've seen a mining industry that has really been very harsh to Black people. And therefore, it would not be surprising for me that they would not be attracted into mining. But I think a lot has happened in mining. Not to say that there's still not a lot that still needs to be done. But by and large, you will see now today that even in most institutions in South Africa, if you're looking at the engineering fraternities, mining engineering schools, that a lot of young black youngsters are actually doing degrees in mining. But I think mining is about to get even much more exciting, because I see it even here. Because a few years ago, as Exxaro, we actually embarked a journey towards digitalization of our business, right from operations to functional areas throughout the business. We even created one of the first digital mines, I think, in South Africa. And with that, it meant that we had to start transforming our workforce in terms of new skills that we had to build, and prepare them for that new workforce of the future. So you need a different type of, and the youngsters of today are very conscientized about issues of societal inequalities, of a whole host of other issues around climate, around issues of environmental stewardship. They are very socially conscientized around this, because they are networked globally, and they are able to respond and challenge us adults as to what are we doing about making sure that Mother Earth is a much better place now into the future. The youth of today, as I indicated earlier, wants a company that has got a social conscience. It's not just about profits. So your appeal is one which says, what role are you playing beyond just driving profits? Are you dealing with big socio-economic, social challenges of the world? Because the days that you are just about maximizing profits at everybody else's expense, those days are gone. So the youth today are looking at companies that are able to express their own desire around the type of future, around the type of world they desire for themselves and for the generations to come. And if you can really position your company and you actually are driving initiatives that actually start responding to addressing those problems, by and large, you become a much more desirable organization to work for. You become a desirable organization that appeals young people, that appeals to broader society, because you see yourself not just about your own existence for one's own self, but suddenly the youngster says, that's a kind of company that resonates with me. And therefore, this is also about your own sustainability as a company. But you've got, and hence why the way we have defined our strategy is about, it is about sustainable growth and impact. That part of the impact talks about socio-economic impact in everything that we do while we are being sustainable in growing our business. Exxaro can only create impact if it has defined for itself as a purpose that they advocate for that. That's why we were very, very clear when we came with our purpose statement, because your purpose statement is your rallying call for an organization. It defines the essence of who you are. And therefore, in that, we chose deliberately, because of the intent that we wanted to have, was to power better lives in Africa and beyond. With a vision statement which talks to resources. Now, resources is many resources. It can be what's on the ground, it can be people resources, but resources powering a clean world. Powering better lives, powering a clean world, underpinned with impact on how we do that. And so for me, that really becomes our foundation of who we are. And that defines us about what our intent is and what is going to motivate our people. So we want to allow for our people to self-express themselves around how they want to do good and saying we have a platform here that allows you to play, that allows to contribute. So we encourage our people to do quite a lot of other things, volunteer work, where we allow them to take time to go and do things like this. We just make sure that even in how we are looking at developing a lot of these projects, how we bring them involved with the communities, how they can play a meaningful role. So yes, but you have to inspire the people. They've got to feel that this thing is truthful. They've got to feel that it actually talks to them also. And you'll be surprised how people respond. The role of women is the most unfortunate thing that it has been so underplayed in society, to the extent that we have deprived ourselves and the world the opportunity of really collectively having minds that can contribute to this world. Why do I say that? It's very interesting that in most instances, in a lot of societies, the home is normally controlled by the matriarch. Why? Because the men are always out at war. They're out, trying to make a living for the family. But the people who are actually running the home, the people who are actually bringing values into the home, the people who are actually nurturing the children are mostly women who are doing that. Women tend to have a different sensitivity around how they engage, which is probably very important in the context of the issues and challenges that we have to deal with, where the emotional intelligence has to come out even much more stronger than the old way of brute force conquering, And the solutions tend to be sometimes achieved in a much better way, because in that solution, there's different insights that they bring in. But what is also painful for me is that sometimes as men, we don't realize that and we don't appreciate that. Participating in the Women in Mining forums as men, because women are not going to solve this on their own. We need to come as men to say we own up that we are the problem here. And therefore, we are here to say we want to play a very critical role in understanding even our own biases, unconscious biases, so that we can, in a way, through communication and engagement, to really say we truly want to play a positive role in doing that. It is a journey. Today's youth, I must say, in as much as we say there's been progress, I think they they find themselves probably even worse situations that we were during their time. You know, there was a time when you could go to school, and if you have completed, you could get a job. It was a time like that. But today we have got a lot of youth, a lot of graduates who haven't qualified, who have invested so much in themselves, and their parents have invested in them, find themselves without a job. And so, one thing I can say is that to the youth, do not despair. And when I say do not despair, I'm saying that find within yourself, find somebody who can be a mentor to you, who can be a role model. It's tough. I know it's tough. But I strongly believe that you have to try and be positive, even in the moment of despair. You are the future of this country. You, the youth, are the future of this country. You will take over where we are. See yourselves as people who are there that have to start thinking about how they can play a positive role towards building a future for the next generations. But we also here today have to plant those seeds that will help them harvest, and they also cultivate for the harvest for the future generations. So crime is not going to do that. Violence is not going to do that. But a mindset, an attitude which says that we are going to be the future leaders. And therefore, we need to start being responsible about how we also come around the table.